Okay, we're live. We'll see how this goes. I changed a little bit of stuff up again, but first of all, we're going to react to Poilievre's video he put out. This video is in response to Carney's speech at Davos.
Prime Minister Carney's well-crafted and eloquently delivered speech at Davos has been widely noted, and I want to start by offering my own praise. The Prime Minister is right to restate what many have said for years. Canada must become more self-reliant, less dependent, and work with like-minded countries to advance our interests. And Conservatives are, as always, willing to work with him to turn these words into results.
So far, I don't like it. We'll see.
What stood out most to me was when he pointed out, quote, the gaps between rhetoric and reality. That's especially true here at home. If liberal words and good intentions were tradable commodities, Canada would already be the richest nation on earth. Unfortunately, after a decade of promises and grand speeches, liberals have made our economy costly and dependent, more so than ever.
Facts. Let's go. That is so facts.
After nearly a year as Prime Minister, Mark Carney has made things only worse.
True.
The deficit has doubled. Food inflation is double that in the States. Housing costs have also doubled, the worst in the G7. No pipelines are approved, anti-development laws removed. The military has a massive recruiting and equipment shortfall. There's still no free trade between provinces. No crime laws have been passed. And the Prime Minister's signature promise of negotiating a win with the U.S. is unfulfilled. Indeed, U.S. tariffs have more than doubled on Canada, while Mr. Carney's promised counter tariffs have vanished along with his elbows.
Facts, other than the speech. I mean, yeah, I agree with Poilievre on some stuff, but I think Poilievre is kind of elbows up himself.
Those unkept promises, which followed grand speeches and announcements, make us especially vulnerable to the world's dangers. We've had enough words. Now we need results. Now we need to unblock our resources. Now we must approve pipelines. Now we must bolster our military to protect our soil, sea, and skies. Now we need to crack down on foreign interference, threats, and intimidation of our people from hostile powers like China, Russia, and Iran. The last 5 years have shown us that we can't count on others. Our closest neighbor and largest trading partner, the United States, struck us with tariffs and questioned our sovereignty.
See, this is Poilievre's biggest mistake. It's very hard to get behind him when he does this. You got to come at it from another angle. You got to say something like, I'll deal with Trump. Even if it's going to be difficult, just say that, because there's no way you'll be proven wrong until such a time that you do become the prime minister. It kind of sounds like Poilievre has the same foreign policy as Carney, but just different domestic policy, which I'd agree with Poilievre on domestic issues.
Now, that is short-sighted, and I believe it will hurt them too. But we can't control what they do, and no one can control.
Thank you, Dave. How are you doing? Thank you for chatting. How are you doing today?
What President Trump
Do you like Pierre Poilievre?
does or says. I know it's tempting to say our relationship with America is over forever, but here's the reality.
It's clearly, I mean, come on. It's such like a clown world statement. 62% of Canada's trade is with USA.
We still live next door to the biggest economy and military the world has ever seen.
Yeah.
We sell 20 times more to the US than we do to China. 1 in 10 Canadian jobs rely directly or indirectly on trade with America. We owe it to those workers, our friends, family, and fellow Canadians to ensure those jobs don't go away. Growing and diversifying our economy is essential, as all political parties have been saying for decades. But we must also remember that our trade and security partnership with the US is centuries old and will outlast one president.
True.
To quote the British Liberal Prime Minister, Lord Palmerston, we have no eternal allies and we have no perpetual enemies. Our interests are eternal and perpetual, and those interests it is our duty to follow. We should continue to work with allies within the U.S. that that are outside the administration to minimize the damage until a larger relationship repair can be completed. And I restate once again my offer to the Prime Minister that Conservatives stand ready to help his government fight U.S. tariffs. But while we hope for the best, it would be naive to assume that things will go back to exactly what they were. Whether the next administration is Republican or Democrat, tariffs may be here for the foreseeable future. None of
Oh, wait a minute. I don't think I actually updated. Give me a sec. I'll keep the video going.
that, though, is an excuse for letting our guard down and repeating past mistakes by making Canada even more vulnerable to aggressive powers like the People's Republic of China, which the Prime Minister himself called our greatest threat only a few months ago. It was with great irony that the Prime Minister quoted one of the greatest heroes of the 20th century fight against totalitarian communism, Václav Havel, less than a week after launching a, quote, strategic partnership for a new world order with the Chinese communist regime, a partnership that includes plans to deepen engagement on national security issues at a senior level. We cannot throw caution to the wind with a regime that kidnaps our citizens, steals our technology, interferes in our elections, sets up illegal police stations on our soil, and has a history of using trade as a tool for diplomatic warfare against us. If this is what the Prime Minister meant when he told the Davos crowd that he is calibrating our relationships so their depth reflects our values, then I seriously question his values and, frankly, his judgment. Of course, we have to trade with China, as we always have, but without losing our compass or our national security. At the same time, we must continue the work of Stephen Harper, the Prime Minister who expanded our network of trade with more like-minded middle power countries. It's not a new idea. In fact, we already have free trade with most of the middle powers that the Prime Minister recognized in his Davos speech after the previous Conservative government negotiated agreements with a record 46 countries. Given that we already have these agreements in place, what stops us from growing trade with those countries is not their trade barriers on us, but our trade barriers on ourselves. Liberal laws like C-69 and C-48 make it impossible to approve projects or ship energy to other countries on different coasts. It takes 19 years to approve a mine in Canada. The Liberal government has created these laws and obstacles, and almost a year after taking office, Mr. Carney has not removed a single law or bureaucracy, or approved a single pipeline, or removed the industrial carbon tax, which drives food and housing costs up and industry out.
He's right. This is where Poilievre hits the nail on the head, in my opinion, is on domestic issues. 19 years to build a mine.
There are hundreds of billions of private dollars looking to invest in wildly profitable projects like...
Thank you, user. Thank you for chatting. How are you doing today? I like the name. User C9 blah, blah, blah. CN.
A pipeline to the Pacific. Money to get Canada's energy flowing and Canada's workers working. We have the resources under our feet. The only thing missing is permits. The federal permits from the Carney government, which are still among the slowest in the world. Grand announcements, new government agencies, signing ceremonies, red carpets, and stacking new laws and bureaucracies on top of old ones will do nothing. There's no magic to this. What we need is for the Carney government to get out of the way and approve these privately funded projects. Mr. Carney told the crowd in Davos that, quote, a country that cannot feed itself, fuel itself, or defend itself has few options. So why can't we? Just this week, Canada was declared the food inflation capital of the G7. And last year...
Are you talking to me with that? I saw your tweet, but I've seen, I was already going to play this because it was pretty big. I was just setting up my stream. You'll notice I don't have that little StreamYard logo. And then I'm also streaming to Kick and to Twitch right now from this, which I've never done. And there's also this like kind of background, which you couldn't do before. But the one thing I'd like to do is I wish my face could get bigger. See, like I can do that, but that's not really that good because now if I play this,
Canadians who can't
this
feed
doesn't really make any sense. It's just all me.
2 million visits to a food bank every single month, more than double than the number.
So there's not. I might play around with this because I can probably just move some of this into OBS. I don't know. This is all probably boring streamer talk, but I'll keep playing around with this, but the cool thing is now I'm streaming to Kick and to Twitch. So we will see if I get any viewers there. I don't even know. I like literally never use Twitch. I use Kick a little bit. Kick is pretty funny, but Twitch, I hopefully it's better than it used to be. I think Twitch used to be very eager to ban people. So, I mean, maybe I'll get banned for just having. We'll see. I'm not going to hold back from what I say.
From 7 years ago, in a country with almost endless farming potential.
Nice, user. Nice. That's great.
Potential. We have the potential to be the most affordable and the richest country in the world because we have the most land, resources, and coastline. We need to unblock our potential, stop stopping, and start starting. That's why Conservatives propose the Canadian Sovereignty Act. It's a detailed plan to unlock and unblock Canada's potential and make our country more affordable, self-reliant, and sovereign. It aims to
make our country great again.
Bring home the $500 billion of investment that's been driven to the U.S. over the last decade, with practical steps like ending capital gains tax on reinvestments in Canada, which would be economic rocket fuel for business startups, high-tech inventions, and massive money-making, job-creating projects, repealing anti-pipeline and anti-development laws to legalize fast and safe approval of pipelines and shipping energy to our East Coast, including a new pipeline to the Pacific, which would ship 1 million barrels a day and $30 billion a year, the single biggest increase in our exports overseas.
Do you think make Canada great again? I want to try to see if I can get like people like the pleb on my stream, or yeah, just big Canadian creators, people like that. That'd be cool.
Let's go from having the second slowest permits in the OECD to the fastest. Let's end the industrial carbon tax on industry and farmers so that they can more affordably produce what we need. Let's create free trade bonuses for provinces and territories to open up their markets to fellow Canadians, tear down internal barriers, and strengthen national economic unity. We need new rules and tax incentives preventing Canadian technologies, intellectual property, and strategic assets from being sold to hostile foreign states.
Oh, she had her on the stream. I thought that meant she was just. I saw that video. I thought that was like she reacted. I'll check that out then. That's cool.
State-influenced interests. We need to cut taxes on work, investment, home building, and energy so that we can make more with less. Doing so will make us both autonomous and affordable. The more food we grow, the more energy we supply ourselves, the more we will be able to afford, the stronger our dollar will be, and the more purchasing power our families will enjoy. That's why I'm announcing today that next week, we Conservatives will introduce a motion in Canada's Parliament to pass the Canadian Sovereignty Act. Speaking about sovereignty, we need a strong and sovereign national defense. And what we do on defense is something that we control alone. We don't have to ask anybody's permission to have a strong, state-of-the-art military and defend ourselves. But could we really defend ourselves today? Once again, Mr. Carney has talked a big game about building up our armed forces, but after nearly a year as Prime Minister, he hasn't even begun to deliver. It's been pushing promises down the road, smoke and mirror budgeting, and commitments of things he might one day do. Just trust us. We really want to do it, just not yet. Look, we all support the sovereignty of Greenland and Denmark, but we must be able to support our own Arctic sovereignty. Right now, we only have 300 full-time members of the military stationed in the Arctic, in a territory that is larger than most countries. We have the largest coastline in the world, and yet we have just a regular naval force of 8,400 personnel. A sovereign country must be able to defend its people and its territory. Conservatives have a detailed plan to restore our armed forces.
Man, without USA, we would be so screwed. That's why what Carney did at Davos is so reckless. And then Trump now rescinded his invitation for the Board of Peace. And like, yeah, the Board of Peace just was invented, but Trump is the leader of the free world. So whatever he does matters a lot. And now Canada is on the outside looking in.
Our great martial tradition to fix our recruitment crisis and expand regular force and reserve force dramatically and immediately. increase recruitment and promotions by driving merit.
Vanished fellow. I don't know what that website is, but follow me on Kick, I guess.
And not political correctness. Reestablishing a permanent military presence in the Arctic with CFB Iqaluit, a new Arctic naval base, and upgrade Inuvik to full base status for fighters and tankers. To back sovereignty with real hardware by requiring 4 new icebreakers, including AWACS aircraft, to detect threats to our Arctic skies. To fast track upgrades to submarines, helicopters, northern hubs. To strengthen boots on the ground presence by doubling the Canadian Rangers and creating an Army Reserve unit in Whitehorse.
Look, this is all fine, and I support all of this, but the best thing Canada can do militarily by far is fix the relationship with the U.S., which it's not totally broken, obviously, but it's worse than it was before. So I think this speech, a lot of it, I think Poilievre would skyrocket in the polls if he said, I'll be better with Trump. I'll figure it. Like, again, that being the leader of the opposition, you have the benefit of these ideas. You can just say stuff until you're actually in there. Then it'll get tested, and then you can see if you can actually back up what you're saying. But I don't see the political disadvantage for Poilievre to just say, I'll deal with Trump better. I'll make him love Canada again. I think Poilievre thinks that will alienate people, but I don't agree at all. I think people want to hear that. People want to feel like we're secure in Canada and that our most important ally, USA, still has our back. I think there's a huge opportunity for Poilievre to do that, but it seems like he's just a little bit different than Carney on that, but not enough. Like, maybe Poilievre is like halfway elbows up.
So far, Mr. Carney, in this regard and in every other, has been very fortunate to be judged by his rhetoric and his stated in.
I think Pierre is becoming more open on who he does on if they call an election. I don't think he will do. Yeah, I hope so. I hope so. I think he is, but I think this time is now to become a lot more open. Like, I do wonder next time if those American shows like Rogan will even want to have him on, because Rogan already has publicly said that he didn't come on. I don't know that Rogan will trust him this time. I don't know. I think he'll get on some. There's no question if he wants. Someone would have him on, obviously, because just running for the leader of a major country is a big deal. But Commie Carney is deliberately poking Trumpy to use Trump derangement to run against him instead of Pierre next election. Yeah, maybe, which is crazy because the next scheduled election is like over 3 years away in Canada. But I also kind of think Carney knows it helps him in the polls because there's a lot of liberals in Canada that eat that stuff up. Pierre will never say or do anything conservative because he has to kiss Eastern leftists. Like, I agree. I think that's probably what he's thinking. Maybe the conservatives out east are sort of the Doug Ford brand of conservative, which is basically like a centrist. Basically, yeah. Anyway, that might be it. But I don't know. I don't think he needs to do that. I think you can just go full conservative. I think people will respect that a lot, but whatever he will say or do will change nothing. Liberal voters have been brainwashed for too long. You could be right. I mean, it's kind of defeatist though. Like, you got to still try. You got to still fight on, but yeah, it does suck. I mean, I think a lot of people feel that way because the Liberals have won 4 elections in a row, and in Canada, there's not a lot of hope. I think that adds to I talked about this in my last stream, but I think that definitely adds to the Alberta independence movement. Quebec and Ontario are the deciding vote. The West says he can't play to the East, but he has to. It's where the win is. I hear you, but I think my theory would be there's more on people in Ontario you can unlock by being a true conservative, I think, and get people motivated. And I also don't think the people in the middle are maybe as soft as one would think. I think people get it. I don't think people are like, I think if Poilievre said, I'm going to deal with Trump, we're going to be friends, everything's going to be great, I think that's a good message. Yep. And that's why he is losing Western votes. Yeah. The thing is, though, as long as Alberta doesn't leave the country, there are like, you need to win Ontario. You have to. So strategically, you got to win Ontario. But I still think the Ontario Conservatives want to hear a different message than Carney for sure on foreign policy. I'm here. They are like, when you're in Ontario, I lived in Toronto, you can feel the difference. You certainly can. It is different. If you have a sort of like a boilerplate conservative take in downtown Toronto, you won't have that. Like it'd be actually hard to make friends, I think, in some circles, because the default position at a dinner party or something at a bar is kind of snobby towards Americans. I'd say it's the base position is pretty liberal. The only chance the cons have is Ontario to get the NDP in. Well, that'd be good. Yeah, split the vote. Hello, everyone. Hello, Kev. How are you doing tonight? What is up, Kev? So yeah, the plan for the stream is it's pretty late. I'm probably not going to stream I'm not going to stream for 3 hours, but I'll watch this video. It's almost done. And then I'll go to play some just kind of general news clips here after this and see where we're going at. There are, I wonder how many people I wonder if I have any Twitch people in Twitch watching me. I'll get back to this video though.
Intentions rather than by his results, because nearly a year into his term, the rhetoric has changed, but the reality is not. The illusion of purpose is there, but the results have not shown up with it. We need to do things, not just say them. Canada Strong can no longer be a slogan, nor True North Strong and Free just a motto. We must put our people and our country first in everything that we do. Then and only then will Canada be autonomous and affordable, secure and self-reliant. To paraphrase Henley, we are the masters of our fate. We are the captains of our soul.
Not bad. Not bad. Again, my basic point on Poilievre is I think he's totally spot on domestic policy. I think he hits all the right notes. I think he's bold enough on domestic policy to really stand for what he believes in. But I think foreign policy, to me, it's a little bit too similar to Carney, but still a little bit better. Oh yeah, okay, I'm gonna see if this works. Let's see. Oh, sick. Comments take the stage. Live comments from viewers will appear on screen. Can everyone see that? The chat on the screen? That is cool. Because before I couldn't do that. I forgot about that button. That is hype. Oh, no way. That is cool. I think that probably looks the best. Hey, tall. What do you think? Tall medium or tall big? What do you think looks better? Yeah, chat, what do you think looks better? That or that? You think big font or medium font? This might be too, maybe a little bit too, like, I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to go find another video. Big. Okay, big. Yeah, cool. I'll just go with that. Okay, thank you. User, thank you. Lee Ives. Hello, Lee Eves or whatever. Eves, Lee. Mexico. Are you from Mexico, Lee? If you are, I'm very jealous. Big. Okay, cool. Can't see much on a phone. Can you see it on a phone? I wonder how that's going to lay that out on a phone. I agree with Jason. Okay. Yeah, from my view here, but I'm looking at a pretty small screen. I like that. I got one Twitch viewer. Shout out to the Twitch viewer. Fire. I don't even really know how Twitch works. Twitch is a totally mystery zone to me. Okay, I'm gonna go to that Jasmine Lane video that Joelle recommended, and I want to see it anyway. Like and subscribe, please. Oh yeah, she is on there. I mean, it's a long interview, so I won't go through all of it, but this is good. This is great. Okay, Kate Harrison, who crushed it on CBC, is on with Jasmine.
It is hypocritical for media and people to be consumed by a hypothetical around Greenland or Canada annexation by the United States, but not also looking at the reality of what's happening.
I have been trying tirelessly to get some of the CBC News hosts on this show, some of the other panelists. They always say no, but do you want to know who did say yes? None other than a very strong conservative voice and ally, Kate Harrison.
Yeah, I'll move ahead a little bit just to where they're talking about Canada's trade relations and economic, I don't know, something.
Necessarily an attractive place to do business and to invest. I think that is made worse by having such an unstable, unpredictable relationship with our largest trading partner. I think that countries and companies that are looking at doing business here would benefit from a greater understanding of where that relationship is going and where we are working to shore up the relationship with the U.S. as opposed to the dynamic we have now, Jasmine, which is, kind of exchanging barbs with one another for the sake of domestic politics, at least in the Prime Minister's case. So that uncertainty, coupled by an environment and a system that is aggressively hostile to doing business in this country, means the Prime Minister has to work extra hard. And of course, there's the political reality, which is that the Prime Minister actually does not benefit politically from getting a deal done with the US, because then he doesn't have an enemy anymore. He doesn't have somebody that he can be up against in the Orange Man in the White House, as many liberals would say. So the current dynamic of instability, the current dynamic of beating up on Trump plays really well to the Prime Minister for his domestic politics, even though it's leaving Canada in a far worse position economically.
So realistically there, at what point does push come to shove where you actually need to get a deal? Like, I feel like we've been at that point for a number of months already, but it isn't quite breaking through yet. And so how much longer do you realistically think that this type of a strategy can really continue? And, I had heard Donald Trump mention something the other day about how USMCA is just not really that relevant as far as he sees it.
A bit of grace to the Prime Minister in trying to create a new economic reality for Canada. We can't be blind to the reality as well that a lot of...
Hello, Chris. How are you? I showed a meat to make Poilievre. Wait, I don't know. I showed a meat. Can't see much on a phone to that. We need ice and Doge immediately. Pierre Poilievre would make a great governor of the 51st state. Are you Canadian then? And you mean like Canada needs ice and Doge? Because I don't think we just need better immigration policy. We don't have the illegal immigration problem as much, but we just have way too much legal immigration. And then Doge, yes, I agree on Doge.
Our national identity is tied up in being anti-American. The former Prime Minister said as much, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do you
Which is insane. It's so cringe.
define being Canadian? Well, we're not American.
Oh, that was the most absurd thing I've ever heard on.
It's so pathetic. It's like we're like a bratty teenager that gets crazy allowance from our parents and then flips them off.
Yeah, it's just a byproduct of being a post-national state, Jasmine, right? So it's,
so
I know it makes you, if you were truly patriotic, that statement in of itself should make you want to scream, right?
Yeah.
But I don't think that it is
Kevin, as long as Pierre chooses the East, it is just confirmation that the West doesn't matter and just adds more fuel to the separation fire. Kind of, yeah, kind of. That I agree with that. What did Kevin say? I don't know. Of course, I'm Canadian living in Nova Scotia. Nice.
traitorous to say that we need the United States more than they need.
Who's everyone's favorite right-wing content creator? But you can't say me. So if everyone, I know everyone was going to, just kidding. Like in Canada, we'll say like if your favorite is Steven Crowder or something, someone that talks about American stuff. Actually, Crowder is Canadian technically, but well, he's both. But say it's like frickin' Michael Knowles. I don't even know. Okay, this is cool. Elevate's good. Moose is great. Moose is bringing the heat with like that chart. It's pretty cool. I'm gonna go with the Moose. PJ, very cool. PJ. Does PJ talk mostly about Alberta, or is it a mix? Like, does he talk about Canada as well? I'm sure he does, but what's like the split, I guess? Moose. Yeah, I love the Moose too. It's a funny name too. Moose on the Loose. Mark Nixon. I agree with this. I think I would put Jasmine at most important because I think it's a tough thing. Like Moose is quite high, but Jasmine does interviews like this, which I think is rare. I think Jasmine can actually drive news cycles because she has leaders on. Like she'll have, I mean, I don't know all the interviews she has, but she'll have newsmakers on her show and do real interviews. And I think that's quite rare. Another big account obviously is Sunshine Baby, but he's kind of he kind of bounces around between America, Canada. PJ is done with Canada. Jasmine is good too. Agreed. She was a journalist. Yeah. I mean, wherever she was, she's crushing it now. She does very well on YouTube.
Need us. And unless we really fundamentally change how we are going to do business, what we are going to export and sell, how we are going to get resources to market, and not on a project-specific approach like what we just saw in Alberta, but
good setup too here in her like home office or whatever.
Writ
that
large,
is.
we would need a reset really in order to, I think, have the U.S. look at us as a serious and formidable partner. That also goes for defense spending. Lots of commitments. It's a space I track very closely.
Is he clickbait? Like he gets a lot of views. Is his titles and videos or titles and thumbnails not really match up with what he's saying? Can't smell sunshine. Sorry. Does that mean you don't like him? I mean, I haven't watched a Sunshine Baby video in like months. Elevate had 10K views on the Trump speech on Wednesday. Wow. Live or like 10K live? I don't like Sunshine Baby clickbait. Jasper is terrible. Who's Jasper? Jasper. Who's that? Yeah, 10K live is crazy. That's sick. He was just streaming the Trump at Davos. 10K live. Wow. Slapinski. I know who that is, but I'm drawing a blank. Slapinski.
We're unlikely to hit the 2% target within the first year. That's reported. The money can't move fast enough, and so we're just not.
Jasper. Okay, cool. I didn't know that. I thought his name was Sunshine. Just kidding. His videos don't match. Well, one thing I've noticed that Moose kind of does this, but I think he does it good. A lot of times the title and thumbnail is about just like 10 seconds of what they're talking about in the rest of the video. Then they just kind of go off onto a tangent. I feel like a lot of Canadian creators are kind of like that, which maybe that's fine, but he goes live 9 a.m. every day now. Yeah, I saw that he switched his strategy. Elevate. Jasper is Sunshine Baby. Cool.
But a serious ally.
You can clickbait, and you kind of need to clickbait, but your clickbait has to match up with what people think the video is going to be. That's what I think. Like you have to clickbait with titles and thumbnails, but it has to match. Like no one cares if they get clickbaited, but then they're entertained. They're like, oh, this is awesome. This is what I thought it was going to be. The clickbait is annoying when you click on something and you're like, this is totally different.
coming to this conversation. So just back to your original point, when do people wake up and realize, okay, the prime minister made these promises, he hasn't followed through? I think he's got a little bit.
Mario's good. Yeah, I agree. He is good. I feel like my politics like are a little bit more maybe right wing than his, but there's no question that he is very smart. Like I think he would be a tough person to debate because he seems pretty like to understand the world quite good. They all have their forte and they're unique in one, yeah. AI creators suck. There are some, yeah, they're popping up actually a lot lately. Like I reacted to one of those AI slop videos about the Alberta independence, but they're getting close. It's kind of scary. They're getting pretty close. I think live, like do you guys like watching live streams aside from the fact you're watching one right now? So I'm assuming kind of, but live is good because you can chat. And I think live is going to be kind of immune to AI, the AI slop stuff, because AI is going to be able to mimic a lot. But the downside with live would be like maybe not the downside, but just the difference. If you make like an action-packed 10-minute YouTube video, you can cut out all the and you can kind of get it more dialed in. So like I have another YouTube channel. That's sort of my goal with it, is to make it sort of concise and action-packed sort of and keep the flow moving. Live is a little bit more conversational, which is still good. But like, for example, if I keep trying to bring the heat when I'm not heat, but like when I try to talk aggressively on live, you get tired. So there's a limit there a little bit. So you kind of got to back off. I agree. Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, I like live though. I like both.
Bit more time, maybe not much time.
But I kind of think that live will be a shelter from the AI content. Because we'll see. I think the AI stuff's about to flood everything even more than it is.
Because that Kuzma deal, which I think the government has really hung their hat on trying to navigate that relationship. The president's already signaled that it's dead on arrival. It's not the way he has gone for any other trade deal. They have all been bilateral agreements. We have not seen another multi-nation agreement from the administration. And we are living in a delusional world to think that they don't actually hold the cards on Kuzma. They do. And so I think that what that bilateral trade relationship and agreement looks like whenever we get there, that's when Canadians might start realizing, okay, maybe we need a more serious negotiator at the table that is going to look at how to do business differently.
You know, I totally agree with everything that you're saying. Obviously.
Yeah, maybe I'll get into that more about the committee meetings because I don't cover that, but I want to cover question period when Carney is there and Poilievre. Those are interesting moments, but maybe I'll cover some of those other stuff. Yeah. AI videos are the cancer of YouTube. YouTube tries to crack down on them too, but maybe there's only so much you can do. Because there was like a few months ago kind of a crackdown, but I think it was mostly on AI. But yeah, I know. AI, it is very creepy.
Obviously, but it's so fascinating to kind of witness the way that all of this in so many ways, it really is so obvious.
Okay, I'm going to go switch to this tab here. I watched this video. This is from my prior stream. Check this out if you haven't seen it. It's just a short video from Talking to Albertans YouTube channel. White Canadians should go back to Europe?
The only way things are going to get better for Indigenous people is if I think, and I mean to sound like a racist, if all the whites pack up and go back to Europe. Let us have.
White Canadians should go back to. Isn't that incredible? Isn't that like just so creepy?
But so many people, and I understand it as well. You know, when you have hung your hat on, I'm a liberal because I'm a good person, and I'm a good person because I'm a liberal, and that's what most of the media is telling you. And you know, it's humiliating to admit defeat to that. But then also there has been such an active campaign against conservatives, particularly Pierre Poilievre. And It's
Do
you've
you
been
mean
quite
this because the Canada keeps these really high dairy tariffs on America, and then it pisses them off? Is that what you mean?
critical on how
Yeah, I saw this. I mentioned that before. Trump removed Canada from the Board of Peace. So stupid, man. Like, what are we doing? I'm gonna go to that actually a little bit because I'm kind of getting tired of this interview.
is discussed, not just criticized either, but quite literally theorized about.
Yeah.
And so what exactly do you think it truly is that drives those the escalation of narratives around him? Because for people who are just looking at a policy perspective, you would likely come away with, that makes a lot more sense. I think that would be good, because something I've said quite a few times as well is that Canada is not incapable at all. So, when people are like, oh, Canada's done, I'm like, I understand your frustration, but
Okay, we'll go here. This guy was on our stream. He doesn't know I'm in his chat, but I want to see what he's talking about. Maybe I'll hop on this. I doubt it, but the title is Alberta Independence. I just want to see what they're discussing.
That's how
Holy shit.
inbred you are.
Okay, so are you comparing dick size? What are you comparing?
I'm
Yeah,
comparing
like, look at
brain
her, like-
fucking function.
She's
That's why I say you're inbred.
all
You got Whitakers. Okay. Many times I'm on here on panels and guys are like, we're moving because them breeding's getting too
the
bad
only thing
around here.
she has.
Oh
Okay.
my
Fat
God.
Well, then what?
size.
Okay, so let me ask you this: why is it
She like shows
that
her
we
fucking
in the state of
cereal
Florida,
fucking cunt.
in the state of Florida,
I don't know. Maybe I'll come back to that. Let's go Board of Peace.
we are completely capable. The
Yes.
problem is that we don't have a government that wants to use that, right?
Yeah.
And to me, I view Pierre Poilievre and the Conservative government as being that government. But so what is it that you think is that one sticking factor where so many other people are just so resistant to even acknowledging that might maybe possibly be an option?
Oh, it's one of these videos. Damn it. Okay, we'll go to this one first. This is pre
Be sort of an organized
us being removed. Canada would join if funds are sent directly to Gaza.
be sort of an organization that oversees the reconstruction of Gaza, its transition into a functioning democracy, ensuring that humanitarian aid gets through. But some of the terms and conditions that Trump has created for this board are raising eyebrows around the world. Now, he has invited Canada and Mark Carney to join the board in some capacity. Carney was initially, we were asked about this, was initially receptive to the idea, seems to have kind of cooled a little bit. And part of the reason are the terms and conditions that Trump is applying to this project, this peace board, basically saying that it would be any member country who wants to join it will be required to pay kind of an initiation fee like you would pay at a country club of $1 billion up front. And then Trump would kind of control how that money.
Are you guys aware of anyone else in Canada that does a stream like just what I'm like? A lot of people in America do this, but are there any other Canadian streamers that just kind of do like a daily news show where they just talk and kind of go through news clips and stuff like that? Are you aware of anyone? I know Elevate just started doing this a little bit.
Is used and how it is spent, and Trump would remain as chairman of the peace board, not just for the duration of his presidency, however long that may last, but for life. He would be the chairman for life. And additionally, he's invited some other world leaders that have also caused some concern, including sort of the strongman dictator of Belarus, which is essentially a vassal state now to Russia, and Russian President.
Really? Who else does that? That's interesting.
Vladimir Putin also been put on that board. So obviously Canada has some concerns about this. Listen to what Mark Carney had to say about whether or not he would or would not join the board.
$1 billion. You going to write a check for that? We would write checks and
The conservative during question period. Yeah. Yeah. Like, well, I agree with you, but what do you think is one example of what they could do better? Because I don't disagree with that. Because that I don't like those question period. I feel like the discussion comes back to topics that don't really matter. Maybe now it'll be better, but when I watched it, it was a lot of talk about climate change, and I hate it when it's like the Bloc Québécois debating with the NDP. It's like, who gives a crap?
deliver in kind to improve the welfare of the people of Palestine. But we want to see it delivered direct to those outcomes promoting peace, and so the mechanics and how it works that way.
Now, Trump has said that he would like to see other world leaders who are gathered in Davos sign on to this peace bond. In fact, he's going to have a charter that they'll be able to sign while he is in Switzerland this week. Still unclear, and I'm trying to parse Carney's comments there. Sounds like, yeah, he's willing if there are certain changes, certain guarantees, including, crucially, humanitarian aid getting through to the people in Gaza, because there have been a lot of concerns that Israel is interfering in that process or cutting it off or making it harder for that aid to be delivered to people who need it. Interesting note about that, Carney referring to the nation of Palestine in those comments. Not sure if that was a slip. Of course, he was talking about Canada's support for an eventual two-state solution. That is, Israel would coexist with a separate country for the Palestinian people, but that is still much further down the track. He did refer to Palestine, though, as being a place or nation there. So we're going to see whether or not Carney and other European leaders, including Emmanuel Macron, will ultimately sign on to this. Macron initially said this week he wasn't going to do it, and that really made Donald Trump angry. He threatened to impose a 200% tariff on French wine and champagne because Macron says he doesn't want to join the peace board. He also predicted Macron will be gone out of politics pretty soon because he is very unpopular in France and he's facing an election in the next year or so. Will he react in the same way angrily if Mark Carney doesn't decide to agree to pay the $1 billion and join the board? Well, that's something we're going to see in the next couple of days.
Northern Perspective 2. I didn't even know they had a second channel. Like a AI video, maybe. Now, whatever. I played this one, but.
And we have some developing news. U.S. President Donald Trump is withdrawing his invitation to Prime Minister Mark Carney to join his board of peace. Trump posting on Truth Social, "Dear Prime Minister Carney, please let this letter serve to represent that the Board of Peace is withdrawing its invitation to you regarding Canada's joining what will be the most prestigious board of leaders ever assembled at any time. Thank you for your attention to this matter." Now, we understand so far roughly 35 countries have committed to joining the board. None of the other permanent members of the UN Security Council have yet committed to doing so. The board was originally intended to end the war in Gaza, but Trump sees it as playing a wider role in global politics.
It'll be very successful in Gaza. It's going to be a great thing to watch.
Yeah, I agree, Eve. Like, we should have done this. And plus, it's America. Like, Canada has to just do, for the most part, what America says, whether we like that or not.
And we can do other things. We can do numerous other things. Once this board is completely formed, we can do pretty much whatever we want to do. And we'll do it in conjunction with the United Nations.
Joining me now is CTV News U.S. political analyst Eric Hem. Eric, it's hard to think about where we start today with all these developments. Maybe let's start with Howard Lutnick, who we just heard.
And we have some developing news. U.S. President Donald Trump is withdrawing his invitation to Prime Minister Mark Carney to...
What the heck? How is it not the first?
And we have some developing...
How is that not the first result?
Joining me now is CTV News U.S. political analyst Eric Hem. Eric, it's hard to think about where we start today with all these developments. Maybe let's start with Howard Lutnick, who we just heard from too, calling Mark Carney's speech political noise. Clearly sounds like it touched a nerve and threatening the possibility of what it's going to mean for the renegotiation of Kuzma. What do you make about that response from him today?
Well, I think it's following on President Donald Trump's own comments where he
Panelist on Bloomberg. So Howard Lutnick talked about, I don't actually know exactly. I know he talks about Canada and I think the Carney speech here. This is the Commerce Secretary in the Trump administration. Very powerful guy.
Drama. Let's get to the big point, the elephant in the room. What happened at dinner time the other night? I've heard all kinds of stories, booing, Lagarde storming out the room. What happened, sir?
Oh, this is so silly. So at the end of the evening, they called on me. I just published an op-ed in the Financial Times. And so they called on me. I gave, 2-3 minutes of my FT, which basically said that.
So Randy, are you pro Carney? And then why do I have an Adam's apple? I don't know what that means. Are you talking about someone on the, like a woman that was on screen? And are you pro Carney? It sounds like it, definitely. But that, whatever, I don't care. You can be pro Carney. Just give a take if you want. Let's get some alternate views. Whoops.
That globalization, right, and the outsourcing of your industry to the lowest cost in the world, right, had really harmed America. It had harmed Europe, and it had failed.
Yeah, net zero.
And that we need to reshore, need to take care of our own citizens.
I don't know, AV. I think they're going to get, we'll see. I think they're gaining a lot of momentum. I did a couple streams on that recently. I did one earlier today, a longer stream actually on that topic.
So that's basically the model. And when I was done with that 2 or 3 minutes, one person of the 200 odd people in the room booed. And I felt honored because it was Al Gore. And Al Gore booed. And I was like, really?
So Madame Lagarde wasn't throwing bread rolls at you from the back. That wasn't happening.
No, I mean, I put it in the FT. I mean, I wasn't like trying to be quiet about it. I mean, I think that globalization, right, and the idea of global supply chains and finding the lowest cost, I mean, that is just not the way to take care of your auto workers, right, who are in Ohio and Michigan. And so we're bringing that back. So think about this. When we were done we started auto tariffs, we started working on it in March, and we finished in November. And we were done. The last day when we finished, General Motors and Ford stocks each went up 10%. General Motors ended the year up 60%. If I told
Yeah, Canada needs the US. It's so true. Whether the elbows up crowd likes that or not, I don't think they like that, but it's obviously so true. And how are you doing tonight? I remember you were in stream the other day, I think. Shall not be infringed. How are you doing? I wouldn't want that greasy parasite around either. I don't know who you're referring to there, Smitty, but thank you for chatting.
Told you on January 1st that General Motors was going to be on 60%, you would all said, oh, stop it. And how about this? On that same day, Sean Fain, who runs the United Auto Workers, called me and said, I can't believe I'm calling a Republican Secretary of Commerce to say, thank God for you and your administration. You're the first administration who's actually taking care of the auto workers of America. So think about that. You can, if you really think it through, you can take care of the company and the worker. You don't have to pick sides because we want union labor growth in America. These are great jobs. Why wouldn't we want them in America? So that's why Donald Trump wins the
Marxist carnage
union vote, because he's actually pro these workers. He literally is pro these workers. It's not a political thing. It's these are great jobs for Americans. Let's go get more of them.
There's a lot of money set to come into the United States and big bets, a ton of FDI. We can get into that in just a moment. I just wanted to stay on G7 allies. This week's been quite a week. Emmanuel Macron, the French president, has said, basically accusing the US of trying to subordinate the Europeans. The Prime Minister of Canada, I'm sure you heard his speech, Mark Carney.
Yeah, here we go. Do you guys want, I'm going to try to on this channel for the most part talk about Canada, because I have other YouTube channels where I talk about America, but do you guys just want Canada stuff for the most part? Or kind of a mix? But either the mix will be like 80-20, because I have, like I said, I have other YouTube channels. I'll always be talking from a Canadian point of view here.
They said this is not a transition, it's a rupture. How would you describe relations with those countries at the moment?
I think our relations are perfectly fine, right? I described the relationship with respect to the whole when Greenland was going back and forth before we sort of settled it with a framework agreement, right? I called it a kerfluffle, right? It's basically like
I think this is smart, the border peace, because I think Trump's frustrated with a lot of the the existing framework of all these organizations like the UN, NATO, things like that.
if you have an argument with your spouse, that's not real. You know, it's not a real one. It's like a small thing.
My spouse doesn't go out there and deliver a speech after that argument and say it's the end of the relationship.
Fair enough. But you're right. And I think they overreacted. And it's proof that they overreacted because a day or two later, there's a framework that makes sense, right? What did we say? We said we cared about it for national security, right? We said we care about it in national security. I mean, it's obvious we care about it for national security because if you're going to build a Golden Dome over the United States of America, right? Wouldn't you prefer the Golden Dome cover Greenland? So when you're knocking out the missiles, you're not knocking them out right over your head. Like we've all seen Israel like knocking out the missiles right over their head with their Iron Dome. Wouldn't you prefer to knock out the missiles if you live on the East Coast of the United States of America over Greenland, a couple of thousand miles away where there's no people, right? Doesn't that sound better? So this is sort of where we're thinking about it and how our national security team is thinking about it.
So what's actually in the framework?
Well, the framework is a national security-based framework. That's what the United States cares about. We care about our national security, and we care about the shipping lanes. So let's talk about the national security and shipping lanes, and let's see if we can't figure out a framework to do that together. And I think that's what the president truthed about. He said, we're going to try to figure that out together because those were the key points that the United States of America cared about. And I think the president's been clear about it, and he just wants people at the table dealing with it swiftly. I mean, think about this. He sends out a truth. And like within 4 days, right, we have a framework agreement. Like that's, by the way, that's a pretty effective
And we had
truth.
tariffs on, we had tariffs on, tariffs off.
They were
what
never
does this
on.
do?
They were never on.
The threat of them are coming on for February 1st. What does this do now for the agreement you and your team struck with Brussels? Because the legal implementation has now been put on hold.
Oh, I think it'll be put on hold probably tomorrow. I mean, come
Sick of paying half my salary for subpar junk. A military that can't defend us. Cops look the other way. It's garbage. I hear you. Mix. Geopolitics are important. Yep. Trump's draining the swamp worldwide. He kind of is. He's getting a lot of other countries to do, I think, what he wants just from some pressure here and there. Exactly. Actually, I'm tired of Carney talk. It's ruining our focus here in Canada. We need to focus more on nation building for Canadians to hear from a positive perspective. It's ruining our focus. I think I agree, but just that if we want to do that, though, it's got to run through Carney in a lot of ways. Like if you want to do major projects, you need the government on board.
Come on, that's why I said it's an overreaction. I mean, they know when the president says this is what's going to happen. I mean, what provoked the president? What provoked the president was that they sent military people to Greenland. I mean, they didn't send military people to Ukraine. Like, why are they sending military people to Greenland? It seemed like a provocation.
We spoke to the Finnish leader, and he suggested that was a miscommunication, and he cleared that up pretty quickly. There's something I want to get into with you that I think is quite important. This, of course, is the art of the deal. We talk about it on the program all the time. The president anchors the story to the extreme and then gets a favorable deal for the United States. I think that's well understood. Something happened, though, in the last 12 months that I think is really interesting. He tried the same thing with Canada and totally upended the election in Canada north of the border. Poilievre was going to sail away with that. The reason Mark Carney's here as Prime Minister is because the president took such an assertive stance on Canada. Now, at the time, I was finding the humor in the conversation. Then the Canadians started lighting up the Bloomberg terminal, sending messages. They were deeply offended. And we've seen that damage the economic relationship with Canada and the United States. And the risk here, Mr. Secretary, and I'd love your thoughts on it and your reaction, because I think this is really important regarding the Europeans. The points you're making
He's right on the election. That totally upended it.
about Europe and have made over the last week are valid points, and they're actually well received by a lot of Europeans. But the style in which it's being delivered at the moment, some of them are finding it offensive. Do you think there's a risk here that we damage the economic relationship with the Europeans in the same way we do with the Canadians, and for that matter, derail the conservative movement in Europe that's well underway?
I don't. I think the fact is that you need to rethink. I think Europe is amazing and it's got extraordinary opportunity and a $20 trillion economy. But think about this. If they had the right digital rules, meaning similar digital rules to the United States, we have $6 trillion worth of committed investment to build data centers in America. And we have a $30 trillion economy. So if they had a $20 trillion economy, you'd say, okay, if they had the same rules, they could get $4 trillion. Or how about $2 trillion? You realize $2 trillion for their economy, right, would be 10 points of GDP spread over 3 or 4 years. I mean, that would produce amazing growth. And let me sort of explain how that works. So we did a deal with Micron, right? They're going to build $200 billion in America. So on Friday, last Friday, we did a groundbreaking of their mega fab, $100 billion fab. And where did they do it? They did it in upstate New York and Syracuse. Now, there hasn't been industrial building in upstate New York in probably 40 years. But if you think about it, it had a huge industrial base once upon a time. So what does it have? It has power because it has the power infrastructure for that. So what that does is it...
Do Americans have the capability to take down hypersonic weapons? I have no idea. Probably.
Creates like this enormous uplift.
I don't even...
And I think Europe can do the same thing. I think the UK can do the same thing. And Canada is just thinking in this arrogant kind of thought.
Well, but just to build on what John is talking about, it's a style question. Can you get the same results without using words like calling leaders weak or their economies decaying, right? Is it necessary to provoke the visceral feeling that we feel among a lot of leaders here and in conversations with international investors? I mean, is there any other way? Is that style more harmful than it is helpful?
We're living in a weird time, I think, where rhetoric gets more of a reaction from people than actual events. Sometimes people get more like outraged about mean words than actual war, which is very fascinating. And I think just kind of shows how brainwashed so many people have been by maybe social media.
Well, I think it creates listening. Like people pay attention to it and listen to it. If you just sort of blend in, no one hears anything in Davos, right? Everybody says the same blah, blah.
I don't even know what a hypersonic weapon is. Short answer, partially, but not reliably yet. I don't know. Cool.
Blah, 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 blah. And if you need to break out and you need to say it. So my view is, right, that Canada has never expressed to the world that they have the best deal, the second best deal in the world. The best deal in the world is Mexico. Because remember, they have USMCA, which means 85% of the Canadian economy comes into the United States for zero. And there he is complaining that he's going to go to China and improve it. What's he going to do?
What do you mean get out of the way, though? I hope it does. I mean, I'm not trying to like heal the world here. I'm just trying to make a YouTube show, but I want it. That's why I always post in the chat for people to come up and share their voice, like that StreamYard link. I also am fine with someone coming in here if they're more left wing. But what do you mean by get out of the way? Just saying get out of the way is not helping people wake up. Get out of the way? Like who Carney get out of the way? I don't get that part. I agree with the limey. EU trying to flex their muscle was like stepping on a Lego in the dark. The EU. Europe has a ton of problems. Europe has a very flat economy. Europe and Canada have a lot of similar issues, actually. From what I've seen, America can't stop hypersonic missiles. People tell the truth about what they want and are thinking. We need open conversations. Yeah, well, come on, hop on the channel if you want, Lee. That'd be great. We can talk about whatever. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. True, true, true. Pierre uses get out of the way. I get it. Yeah. Like he says, if Carney gets out of the way, I think he's more saying that in terms of lower regulation, like get rid of the industrial carbon tax, lower red tape in the country, and then we can build things like the pipeline. All the communist country like Canada have economical problems. Yeah, Europe has major problems too. Like they have very low economic growth, but so do we.
China's delighted to sell to him, but do you think China's going to open their economy to accept exports from Canada? This is the silliest thing I've ever seen. They have the second best deal because Mexico's got a little better deal. They have 25% on the extra 15%, whereas Canada's got 35% on the extra 15%. But give me a break. They have the second best deal in the world. And all I got to do is listen to this guy whine and complain.
Mr. Secretary, in fairness, you've seen from the airplanes, you've seen about a 30% decline in Canadian visitors to the United States, if not significantly more. You've seen a similar type of decline from China. European travelers inbound have come down. There is a sense that people do not want to come to the culture of the U.S., and there is this anger about it. And I just wonder if you think that that's just temporary, or you just sort of dismiss that, or you think it's irrelevant to the actual issues.
I think what that is political marketing, right? The Canadians have the second best deal in the whole wide world. If they continue this path, right, which is a political path of a certain thing. I'm going to go fly to China. I'm going to open up my markets to China. I'm going to take Chinese electric cars and do all sorts of this stuff. Then when USMCA gets renegotiated
This year,
sort of like towards the end of the summer, in the middle of the summer, do you think the president of the United States is going to say, you should keep having the second best deal in the world? I mean, you guys are such great friends. I mean, they are playing with a set of rules that they haven't really thought
I can
through.
hear it in your voice. You're excited about negotiating this, aren't you, later this year?
Well, they've sort of given a sort of a roadmap of saying, so I guess we should change the whole deal, right? You want to be like the rest.
Man, this is actually very scary. Yeah, I don't know if you caught like what he's saying, but he's kind of saying like, well, next time we're not going to be so nice then. I think that's going to happen, by the way. I don't think this, like the 51st state stuff, is a troll. I've always thought it's a troll. I'll continue to think it's a troll. This is not a troll. I think this is going to be like, okay, the next time we negotiate a deal with you, we're going to put the screws to you. Because for what? Even now, in a very public way, Canada has said, we don't like the USA. Like they said that to everybody. Trump is not going to like that. Even it goes though beyond Trump. Just Americans are not going to be thrilled by that speech. I bet you even many Democrats probably saw that and went, what the hell are you doing? Because I know some Democrats would be like, oh, well, that's just because of Trump's in there. But this is very concerning, I think.
To the world, you don't want to be this favored neighbor because you've taken it so for granted that you're willing to come to Davos and say there's two hegemonic powers in the world and we're going to decide which one we're going to work with. Really? You're going to either work with the United States of America, where 75% of your economy is totally tied to it, or China? Why would you say that? I think
he's saying exactly what's on my mind. Why would you say that?
It's political. You know, I think if we take it correctly, we should look at it as just political noise coming out of a prime minister. And maybe this is working for his election, right? Because I don't think it can be real. Because if you took out the math of Canada's economy and it's doing business with the United States of America's $30 trillion economy, there's no such thing as changing what they have today. No one would vote for changing what they had today. Now, maybe they're marketing it well, but they're just for their politics. But they're surely not marketing it well for their fundamental economics for long-term the United States.
The U.S. is doing deals with China, and I'd love you to walk us through what's going on with the H-20s. Is it?
What is the rest of the West's life expectancy? I think it'll basically stay the same. I mean, unless you get attacked militarily, might go down a little. What is the rest of the West life expectancy? Again, unless there's some crazy big war, yeah.
Accurate now that basically for China to get the H-20 chips, Taiwan needs to send them to America for us to put a tariff on them to make money off it and then send to China. And is it your understanding that China might be suspectable now to these chips, suspect because they're entering through the United States?
So it's the H200, right? So that's the chip we're talking about. And Jensen Huang came to the Oval Office and he argued that this is a better chip than they can actually make at any scale, right? So if we sell them to China, right, and Chinese businesses, then they'll start using them and they'll develop on the American tech stack, and that will take some money away from the Chinese tech stack. And it's an interesting argument. There are two sides. There are strong two sides. We shouldn't sell them any, or we should sell them the H200s.
Where do you sit?
And I stand right in the middle. It was a really, really good discussion.
Good night, Lee. Thanks for being here.
Okay. And the president decided that, fine, we'll sell the H200s to them. Okay. And he made that decision. And after he was done, he said, and you know what? I think if we do that, we should get 25% for the American taxpayers, right? Because we're creating
But
something
do you think
that didn't
China
exist.
wants to buy them, knowing that they're going from Taiwan now?
Does anyone have a video recommendation? Keep it like on Canada, but there's a bunch I can play. But if you have a recommendation for a video, you can put it in the chat.
Back to the U.S.,
They're coming
then
to
to
the
China.
United States because in order to collect 25%, right? The process matter to do it right is you import it, put a tariff on it, and then export it again. Okay. And so that's the model. It's the process model to execute a plan that the President of the United States of America made. Right. So that's just the execution model of how to do it. It's just process, right? And it's the same H200 chip. And the question we'll find out is that businesses in China want to buy it. That's for sure. The question is, does China's central government, right, want, when they have that same argument, do I want to give my companies this chip that they're all clamoring for? Or do I want to force them to take the pain of using lesser chips that are domestically made, but helping our domestic companies grow? And that's a question we're going to see how it goes. But I think the president put that question out there, and I think it's a really interesting one. I didn't say there's not two sides of that coin, right? Yeah. But the president thought having Chinese developers on the U.S. tech stack, right, given sort of the middle, he falls that way. And it was really...
Okay, another roundtable here. Let's see what CBC is saying. Was Carney's speech a preview of an election slogan?
The prime minister pushed back against the president's
Man, this guy is so such a leftist.
Words without saying the president's name.
You should be grateful to us. Canada lives because of the United States. Remember that, Mark, the next time you make your statements.
Canada doesn't live because of the United States. Canada thrives because we are Canadian.
I like how that doesn't really mean anything. Thrives.
This comes 2 days after the prime minister's Davos speech, where he positioned Canada on the world stage.
RCMP getting caught spying on Montana should have been. That happened? Holy, when did that happen? I never even heard of that. That's brutal.
Laying out the choices facing middle powers in a rapidly changing world. Well, today, the prime minister used his Quebec
You don't like this guy, Kev?
City speech to outline some of the choices facing Canada in this moment.
We choose to build a bright future worthy of the ground on which we stand. We choose Canada.
Well, this speech signaled the government's priorities for the year ahead, but was it really about the choice the country might face in 2026 or about the choice that voters might face in 2026? Joel Denis Bellavance is the parliamentary bureau chief for La Presse. He is at that cabinet gathering in Quebec City. Here with me in the studio, Robert Fife is the Ottawa bureau chief for the Globe and Mail, and Catherine Cullen is the host of CBC Radio's podcast, The House. Good to see you all. JD, We Choose Canada sounds a lot like an election slogan. Not that I'm reading too much into this. What did you make of the prime minister's second speech on a second continent today?
Well, I would describe it as Davos number 2. Davos, we saw Mr. Carney address the world leaders about the challenges facing the whole planet because of what Donald Trump is doing south of the border. And here in Quebec City, the Prime Minister wanted to talk to Canadians about the challenges that we're facing. And if you want to survive the challenging world in which we live, we need to stick together. So that was a call for unity. And it was very interesting because of the historic references that he made, but also about what kind of future Canada should be looking at, given what we are seeing south of the border.
Yes, it was interesting in a Quebec election year to be at the Citadel referencing the Plains of Abraham when the Parti Québécois is up in the polls. Like that's a thing. Bob, what are your thoughts on what we saw, in all of the speeches this week?
Well, first of all, the speech in Davos, many will agree, was almost Churchillian, and he was rightly applauded around the world for a messaging to stand up to the great powers, particularly, although he did not mention President Trump by name, was clearly speaking about American power and
This can be cringe. They're all going to go around and to say how great it was.
how they're trying to use their economic leverages and tariffs to put people in the line. And he's saying the middle powers have to get together.
Yeah, I think I'll come back to this, but let's go here. Do you all know who Rachel Gilmore is? Are you aware of this person? Rachel Gilmore. She's like a Canadian left-wing YouTuber, one of the only ones. She's big on Twitter. Yeah, yes. Okay, cool. There's a 4-minute video here we'll watch. Yes, it happened. I have a vid for you. Oh, cool. What? Oh, really? Yeah. I'll if you just put the title or the link in here in the chat. I don't know if you can put links in the chat. You probably can. I don't know how that works. Maybe YouTube blocks it, but
this was a very good speech. It was accurate, it showed backbone, and I think Canadians can be super proud of it. So naturally, today, Trump is threatening all of Canada. Here's what he said.
Canada gets a lot of freebies from us, by the way. They should be grateful also, but they're not. I watched your prime minister yesterday. He wasn't so grateful. But they should be grateful to us. Canada lives because of the United States. Remember that, Mark, the next time you make your statements.
Yeah. So what did Carney say that made Trump so mad? Well, he accurately diagnosed how the United States is behaving. And he effectively called for the middle powers of the world to unionize against this bully. Here are a few key clips.
We are in the midst
unionized. This is going to be such a bad breakdown.
of a rupture, not a transition. Over the past 2 decades, a series of crises in finance, health, energy, and geopolitics have laid bare the risks of extreme global integration. But more recently, great powers have begun using economic integration as weapons. Tariffs as leverage, financial infrastructure as coercion, supply chains as vulnerabilities to be exploited. You cannot live within the lie of
Okay, just what's the title? Is it a YouTube video? Because I'll probably make mods. Like I'll probably make you a mod, but I don't want to do any of the mod stuff yet because I've not thought about that at all, about how I want to set up my mod stuff as a streamer.
mutual benefit through integration when integration becomes the source of your subordination. A country that can't feed itself, fuel itself, or defend itself has few options. When the rules no longer protect you, you must protect yourself. But let's be clear-eyed about where this leads. A world of fortresses will be poorer, more fragile, and less sustainable. Stop invoking rules-based international order as though it still functions as advertised. Call it what it is, a system of intensifying great power rivalry where the most powerful pursue their interests using economic integration as coercion.
This speech made headlines around the world, and it got a ton of praise. But here is the one thing that is holding me back from celebrating our Hugh Grant and Love Actually moment too aggressively. And to be clear, I am not trying to be a buzzkill or overly cynical, because if you hear what I'm saying, there's actually a hopeful message in it. As someone who has been a political journalist in Canada for a decade, I can
A journalist, a political leftist activist.
tell you that this speech, based on our government's actions to date, struck me as aspirational rather than a reflection of our real and current approach to the United States. And that is a criticism that I'm far from the only person to say, and it's one that Carney sort of acknowledged in his speech. Take a listen.
Countries earn the right to principled stands by reducing their vulnerability to retaliation.
And perhaps Carney has until now felt that Canada has not earned its right to take principled stands by reducing said vulnerability to retaliation. To give you some examples of where our actions haven't matched the tone of this speech, consider our silence as the Trump administration bombed speedboats.
Man, this is going to be like such a bad breakdown. That's what you're bringing up. It's going to be like we're not virtue signaling enough.
International waters. Consider the fact that Carney called Trump's illegal removal of Maduro in Venezuela, quote, welcome news, despite the fact that this action...
This was a fact checker at one of those networks, I think CTV or Global. Imagine her checking facts. Like if this person had political power, man, she'd be, I think, way further left even than Trudeau.
Too trampled on international law. Consider our complicity in Israel's genocide in Gaza, when we could have done so much more to ensure that Canadian weapons parts aren't ending up in Israeli weapons by traveling through the United States. The United States that is aggressively supportive of Israel. Consider when we were silent on the United States sanctioning a Canadian ICC judge for being involved in the investigations of war crimes by American and Israeli officials.
It's like the politics of an 8-year-old child that's like, let's just share with everyone and be nice. It's actually hard to take this seriously. I don't even want to refute her points because it's pathetic. Like, this is an adult person. Her politics are nobody fight with each other.
Fact that Carney has said he agrees in principle to join Trump's Board of Peace, which is his bizarro autocratic US-led version of the United Nations. Though we won't pay the $1 billion to be a permanent member for what it's worth. It is an undeniable fact that we have missed several opportunities to match Carney's rhetoric in this very good speech.
And do what? These people want Canada, by the way, to be a third world hellhole. If you listen to all that stuff, we'd be so poor. Like I've talked about, Canada's not doing well at all, I don't think, but we would be like, I think she wants to drive the country into poverty so we don't support America. So we don't support the big bad Americans. Let's just drive ourselves into misery and poverty and disease. Like these policies are batshit crazy.
Is why my next question is, does this signal a shift in action? That is what I'm going to be watching for in the coming days and weeks.
It's never going to be enough for her.
Because Carney showed in this speech that he has nailed the diagnosis of Trump's behavior. So I'm looking forward to seeing if we will match the boldness of this speech with equally bold action. What do you...
Bold action, AKA, are we going to drive the country into poverty because I think it'll look good on my Twitch stream? That's so fucking stupid. I knew that would be stupid though. And it certainly did not disappoint in how dumb that was. There aren't that many big liberal, like there was a person named Boots, Steve Boots, but they're gone now. They quit doing this. There's another guy on TikTok, some young guy, maybe not young, but youngish. But I forget his name. Maybe his name's like Dominic or something. Do you guys know any large liberal creators in Canada? Yeah, this I was going to just search. Maybe I'll do maybe I will do a I think I did hear about this. What the hell's that noise? Is it this here? Is it this video? It looks like it, right? What the hell's that noise? Is that my... This?
It's not often that I get to talk about stories from my own state in my usual material, but that's a lot of what makes Montana such a great place to live. We don't make national news. Outside of watching Yellowstone or some Unabomber documentary, nobody really thinks about us. For 99% of the country, we are an afterthought, if we're ever even a thought at all. And we like to keep it that way so that the rest of you remain under the impression that it sucks here and you leave us alone and free from your coastal influence. But I suppose the fact that we love guns and hate feds in this state does put us on something of an inevitable crash course with national trends anyhow. So thankfully, this particular episode ended without incident, at least for now, but it certainly is a recipe for major conflict that could happen anywhere. Because what may appear like some small law enforcement issue on the Montana High Line actually has massive implications for our rights as citizens and the proper centers of police power between the state and federal governments, and even the role of foreign policing in our lives. In other words, do the feds own Montana, or do we, the people of this state? Because the feds don't seem properly considerate with that question. This event actually happened a few weeks ago.
Babcock, yes, but her videos are so long that I don't want to watch like a 30-minute video of her all the time. But yeah, I guess I could just watch like her little introductions.
I'm returning to this story because this week there are some new developments, or maybe non-developments, in terms of people refusing to explain what even happened here. But back on September 24th, there was a gun show at the Cascade County Fairgrounds in Great Falls, Montana. This is about 120 miles straight south on Interstate 15 from the Canadian border crossing at Coots. And at some point during the event, attendees noticed a suspicious blacked out SUV patrolling the parking lot, and the driver taking photos of other cars. This SUV had Canadian license plates, but the man behind the wheel never actually entered the event. He just crept around the parking lot taking his photos. And so the fairgrounds director, unsure who this guy is or what he's doing, called the sheriff's department. A deputy responded and spoke with the man, who identified himself as Richard Carina, a Canadian police officer with the Lethbridge, Alberta Police Department. Okay, so why is an Albertan municipal police officer conducting some kind of surveillance op in the U.S. 200 miles away from his city? Well, he said he's working with a Royal Canadian Mounted Police Task Force. In other words, he's with the Mounties, the Canadian feds. Okay, so why is a Canadian fed conducting a surveillance op on U.S. soil then? Why isn't he working with the police of jurisdiction, the Cascade County Sheriff's Office? Well, he is working with American law enforcement, he says, speaking with the sheriff, an ATF agent named Craig Howe, who was also on the fairgrounds, though not in the car with Carina the Mountie at the time. According to the Mountie, speaking with the sheriff, this operation was searching for Canadians smuggling guns back to Canada, but that's not necessarily why his ATF partner was there. When the sheriff asked Howe, the ATF agent, what was going on, the ATF agent said he was looking for an American selling guns without proper federal licensure. It's a notably different reason for the investigation than the Mountie provided. Now, of course, it's possible that both of these things were happening, that somebody did smuggle guns into Canada and somebody did sell guns without proper licensure, but that's an explanation still lacking specifics. If the ATF agent and the Mountie are working on two different cases, then what is the nature of the cooperation? If these are related cases, then who are they looking for, and what did this suspect do? But notably, in both news coverage and the sheriff's report, no such specifics are provided. No mention of who is doing this. No mention of what guns were exchanged, just the conduct of a Mountie that sure looks like he's investigating people at the gun show in general, not looking for a specific target who committed a specific crime. And even if there was a legitimate crime committed, the question remains, why wasn't the sheriff ever informed or even contacted about this operation? Because without informing the sheriff, this sure looks an awful lot like an international Fed op to spy on American citizens exercising their constitutional rights without any cooperation from the local law enforcement that is actually elected by an account.
Yeah, this is really weird. This was 3 years ago. Wow.
Risk too. Asked if drawing attention to the federal agents put those law enforcement officers in jeopardy, Slaughter told the reporter that their police work outed themselves. We don't know they're undercover, he said. We don't know who they are. but we have them acting suspiciously. Yeah, God forbid we have one Fed put at risk by his own illegitimate intrusion into a community in which he does not belong. Burn down that expo center, so long as not one Fed gets scratched. And that may sound like an exaggeration.
So this was a speech Carney gave 13 hours ago.
Ça fait longtemps. Alors, bonjour, mes chers amis, chers collègues.
I think I tried to find this. What is this video?
Mesdames et messieurs, cet endroit est chargé de souvenirs. Au XVIIIe siècle, deux armées se sont affrontées ici dans une bataille qui a changé à jamais le cours de l'histoire de ce continent. Lorsque la fumée s'est dissipée, les deux commandants, Wolfe et Montcalm, gisaient mourants, leur destin lié même dans la mort. La Nouvelle-France était tombée. L'Amérique du Nord britannique était née. Il aurait été facile, voire prévisible, d'en rester là. Le scénario habituel de la conquête. Les vaincus sont assimilés, leur langue supprimée, leur foi interdite, leur loi remplacée. C'est ce que
Are you sure? I don't see it, Joel.
les conquérants ont. Les Britanniques ont quelque chose, but also celebrates them. Un projet audacieux que deux peuples récemment ennemis, parlant des langues différentes. The battle on these plains, long before the first French ships sailed up the St. Lawrence, indigenous peoples were the original stewards of this land. They built nations, trading networks, and systems of governance that spanned the entire continent. The Haudenosaunee, the Anishinaabe, the Wendat, and the Innu shaped this land and were shaped by it. Then the French came. They built a new society adapted to the realities of North America, shaped by the river and forest, by trade with indigenous nations, and by the determination to survive and flourish in this land. When the British came, that civilization did not disappear. It endured, and now it thrives. La Confédération est née de cette histoire. L'une de ses pères fondateurs, Joseph Cartier, a déclaré à l'époque que les Canadiens et Canadiennes conformité, que nous.
But what we need is more Chinese foreign direct investment in Europe.
Great powers have begun using economic integration as weapons. Tariffs as leverage.
Yes, China has.
Financial infrastructure as coercion. Supply chains as vulnerabilities to be exploited.
If you're going to side with any of the other world leaders, you would have to set as a premise that China is inherently virtuous, that Russia is not a threat, nor Iran. If you believe that, then these other people have a leg to stand on. If you don't, you better sit down, shut up, and listen. Davos, look, you obviously are not big fans. This is sort of globalism exemplified. This year is a monumental shift. This is a turning point. And I mean that in a way that we did not see from the first Trump administration. People often talk about, in the second term, you can get done what you want to get done because you're sort of unrestrained. And that's not necessarily true, but the principle of it is something to keep in mind. What I want you to keep in mind today as we show you these clips, as we show you these videos, is the law of contrast.
Yeah, I know. I just want to, I couldn't find that video you're talking about. I don't see, but this, I want to see what Crowder says about this. And I probably will stream for another 10 minutes or so.
You are seeing a stark contrast.
But if anyone wants to hop up and talk, I'll still do that for like a little bit. We don't have to talk for very long. But if anyone would like to, there's the link again.
Between the Biden administration, the Trump administration, their approach. You are seeing a huge contrast between the way world leaders talk about Trump when they're with their gang. And these people are bullies, to be clear. They'll badmouth him, they'll trash him, they gossip like mean girls, and then when they're with him, oh boy, they are on their best behavior. And when he talks, you could hear
that is so true.
A rat piss on cotton. I want you to keep the contrast in mind. And most importantly, think of the contrast that was false guilt versus truth. Because you may not like President Trump, but what he is espousing and what his team of absolute killers are championing there, it's the truth. So here you go, just to set this up, WEF, Davos, and it's been a real barn burner.
This will be an interesting trip. I have no idea what's going to happen, but you are well represented.
Well, that wasn't a military. They sent a few people, and they say they sent them not for me, but to guard against Russia. But, you know, NATO's been warning Denmark for about 20 years now, longer than that, 25 years. They've been warning Denmark.
See you later, Jason. Have a great night. Thanks for watching. Thank you for watching. I won't stream for too much longer. Like I said, I'm kind of getting a little tired, but if anyone would like to hop on and chat, that'd be sweet. Please look at Liberty Doll 2A News and finish the video by Matt Christensen about the RCMP. I will another day, probably. I'm just kind of tired. Is Liberty Doll an account? 2A News. I know Canada doesn't have the 2A. Like, we have a way softer gun culture. It's crazy.
About the Russian threat. And it's not only Russia, it's also China. So we'll see what happens. But let's put it this way. It's going to be a very interesting Davos. Goodbye, everybody. Have a good flight. Thank you.
Is that Christopher the Sopranos on the right?
It looks like it could be, yeah. Very interesting, very interesting. This is going to be very interesting Davos. I will tell you this, too. To be opposed to, let's sort of put aside mean tweets or tone. If you're going to side with any of the other world leaders, you would have to set as a premise that China is inherently virtuous, that Russia is not a threat, nor Iran.
Okay, cool. I've heard of her. I've heard of that account, but I don't know if I've seen it.
You believe that, then these other people have a leg to stand on. If you don't, you better sit down, shut up, and listen. It's time for my World Corner. A lot of wrestling references today.
A little bit.
So let's first flashback, set the stage here. The Biden team, Biden didn't go because, you know, it was like an old dog on a road trip. Like, he's not going to make the trip.
No, don't do it.
False guilt and appeasement was the Biden approach.
Climate change represents an existential threat that will require close global coordination.
President Biden's made investments at home that people around the world are seeing. Much of what we're trying to do, we can't effectively get done alone. We have to have partners. We have to reimagine as we've been doing our partnerships. And that actually makes it a great time. We know that virtually none of the problems that we want to address for our own people can be done in isolation. We can't do it on our own.
I'm convinced we will get to a low carbon, no carbon economy. We're going to get there because we have to.
Not now.
I am not convinced we're going to get there in time to do what the scientists said, which is avoid the worst consequences of the crisis.
The reality is that countries around the world want to follow the formula that we've developed, and we want to help them do that. Making bold investments, building high quality infrastructure, empowering workers, tackling
energy. So it really does just come down to their own selfish interests. But I'm sure you knew that when you saw them flying in private jets, eating Kobe beef while telling you to eat bugs. So that was the Biden administration. Now let's compare that versus, okay, a very stark contrast. The Biden administration. Oh, thanks. No time like the present. Versus the theme, truth and American pride, the Trump team. It's a new sheriff.
Just to be clear, that we have Europe buying Russian oil still 4 years later, they are financing the war against themselves. India started buying Russian oil after the conflict began, but President Trump put a 25% tariff on them, and India has geared down and has stopped buying Russian oil.
We are in Davos at the World Economic Forum. And the Trump administration and myself, we are here to make a very clear point. Globalization has failed the West and the United States of America. It's a failed policy. It is what the WEF has stood for, which is export, offshore, far shore, find the cheapest labor in the world, and the world is a better place for it.
The United States of America since
Like the border from Canada to US was shut down because of our COVID mandates. That sucks. They're like that too. Man, Canada was locked down. How long in Montana were you guys locked down for COVID? Because in certain parts of Canada, it was like literally 2 years.
1980 has contributed 22 trillion more dollars, or spent 22 trillion more dollars on defense than all of NATO. So roughly the same size population, and we have
That's funny, Kevin.
spent 22 trillion more. That is 2/3 of our outstanding government debt.
And what we are here to say is that America First is a different model, one that we encourage other countries to consider, which is that our workers come first. We can have policies that impact our workers. Sovereignty is your borders.
When it comes to imbalance, we have a huge imbalance with Europe. You've had huge access into the US market for many years. We've had limited access into Europe. You limit our agricultural imports, you limit our industrial imports, and you have a huge surplus with us. And it's not because you're particularly competitive.
You're entitled to have borders. You shouldn't offshore your medicine. You shouldn't offshore your semiconductors. You shouldn't offshore your entire industrial base and have it be hollowed out beneath you. You should not be dependent.
Yeah, that's amazing. America was way better during COVID. It was still in places too authoritarian, but Canada was unbelievable.
For that which is fundamental to your sovereignty on any other nation. And if you're going to be dependent on someone, it darn well better be your best allies.
And what I'm urging everyone here to do is sit back, take a deep breath, and let things play out. As I said on April 2nd, the worst thing countries can do is escalate against the United States.
I have two important points to make. I guess three here. Do you notice, also when you're contrasting, someone like Scott Besson is saying, all right, we spent 22 trillion. I think he said 22
And Canada gets representatives like Melanie Jolie.
trillion dollars more than I believe all the other nations combined, and that's 2/3 of our outstanding debt is our national defense spend. So a couple of things right there. But yeah, keep that up. What you see is facts, statistics, not it's imperative that we globalize or work on climate changes. These are the numbers. Look at that chart. What he is saying to these nations, these members of NATO who have not paid their fair share, he is saying, if you read between the lines, that debt is your debt. You're the ones who are going to be holding the bag because we've been footing the bill and you haven't been honoring a contract. We're not the ones on the hook. Europe, NATO nations, you guys have the money. Look at this. You've increased your social spending. You've increased your welfare state. You've increased your benefits, your socialized health.
Man, that's crazy. Dude, like that, Trump is so correct to be mad at Europe and Canada. Because Canada also underfunds NATO and historically has. That's incredible. So look, social spending, social programs up, GDP up a decent amount, defense flat. And then these countries wonder why Trump is pissed about this stuff and like calls them out all the time. Man, it actually is incredible the degree to which Canada and Europe have been milking the United States for decades.
Healthcare, and we're the ones making sure that you are safe. You can bring it down now. Here, let's change one thing, including, by the way, Canada. Great, socialized healthcare, great, Germany. Oh, okay, great, free internet, got it. Defend yourselves, go. If you can't, that's not all our debt. He didn't say that part explicitly, but I guarantee you that's going to come up. When people want to point and go, you Americans, look at your debt. Where do you think you would be if we weren't ensuring that you were anything other than a conquered people? We could point to any of your nations historically. Without your alliance with the United States, you cease to exist, especially Canada. The other thing I will say is this is sort of proof positive that libertarianism is dead. I also wonder when you see America First people saying, this administration, I want to impeach them. Look at all these foreign wars.
My governor socked up a reporter. Oh, what the fuck? Really? Damn. When did that? That's cool. Or that's incredible. I was in Montana in 2024, like a little bit before the election, and I heard quite a few ads on the radio actually when I was driving for. I think they were for John Tester, but he lost. But it was the Democrat, and even he was trying to say, "Oh, I'm a Democrat, but I still love guns," and that's what he said. It was about guns. It was like, John Tester will not take your guns. That's all I remember. But he won, obviously. But Tester was the incumbent. But I remember I found those ads pretty cool. That is just so much different than an ad you would hear in Canada. Like that's not a campaign issue here. It was freaking awesome. John Tester is a traitor. Montana is beautiful. Like the trees there, they're actually way different than in Canada. Like Canada's beautiful too in many places, but the trees in Montana they look way different. The forest, what's it called? Like Lewis and Clark Forest or something?
Wars, which we're not really in foreign wars. We haven't actually invaded countries. Libertarianism has allowed globalism to flourish. As long as it's free, open trade, that's great. Yeah, but that doesn't work in the real world if you understand that engaging in trade with bad actors is basically emboldening, enriching your enemies. We need strong nation states. The only way you can be against that, and please comment below if you think I'm off base here, the only way you can be against the idea of strong nation states is if you believe that all nations, and that means all nations, share the same values. You guys want to do that with nations in sub-Saharan Africa? You guys want to do that with the Middle East? So there's going to be a nation state. There are going to be borders. We're just talking about degrees. Well, we're not going to base those borders on guilt. Now, Scott Bessent, really impressive. And I've seen some criticisms that he was inarticulate. He was kind of stuttering. That's true, but I've noticed something about him. This is a guy who's an expert. He's not a public speaker. So he does take a while to get going, and he'll stutter a little bit. But I know why. It's not his forte. He doesn't really start to get cooking.
Yeah, but he's awesome. Lutnick is awesome.
And you can see the moment where he finds his happy place and then sticks the landing.
And do you not feel that a security deal in the Arctic
would talking about Bessent there
suffice in terms of Greenland?
Well, I think what we're seeing, we're seeing with a base that we have shared with the UK for many years.
That's such a funny edit because he's gay.
The UK is signing the island over to Mauritius. So again, I can see why the president believes.
Man, that was a curveball. Holy crap, that was funny.
That for U.S. engagement, we do not want another Diego Garcia on our hands.
That's all you needed to know, Scott. You're home. Now,
Scott is methodical and concise. Totally.
Let's compare the rest of the world. And here's the thing. The rest of the world goes all of us and the United States.
That was so funny. Holy crap.
Let's do that too. Hey, you want us to foot the bill? We are going to set the rules. It's actual evangelizing. Hey, here are the benefits. Isn't that wonderful? Here are the expectations. Here are the rules. Here's the rest of the world.
Okay, here's Carney coming up. Once Carney's part's over, I will probably shut it down.
On potentially one of the most evil nations that has ever existed, certainly historically, if you look at how many people they've killed, their own people, the world on China.
And this is core for the rebalancing with China. China is welcome, but what we need is more Chinese foreign direct investment in Europe, in some key sectors to contribute to our growth, to transfer some technologies, and not just to export towards Europe some devices or producers or products which sometimes don't have the same standards or are much more subsidized as the one being produced in Europe.
Wow. There are very clear guardrails in that relationship. I spoke of calibration of relationships in my remarks.
That's Candace Owens, his best friend there.
Wow. There are very clear guardrails in that relationship. I spoke of calibration of relationships in my remarks. That's what I mean by it. But within those clear guardrails are huge opportunities in energy, both clean and conventional, obviously in motor vehicles, in agriculture, in financial services, all of which is mutually beneficial. So it's additive. And look, it's the second largest economy and it's our second.
Yeah, I saw that. The eye infection. I don't know what happened. I think Trump was kind of making fun of him during his speech even. Brookfield stock, really? Up 150? I'll take a look at that right now.
Largest trading partner. We should have a strategic partnership with them within those guardrails, and that's what we've achieved.
And when President Trump says, "Oh, Greenland's under threat from Russia, even from China," is that for real?
Yeah.
I would say that there are threats. Russia is without question a threat in the Arctic. To protect from Russian missile threats and others, and why we will work with our NATO partners.
Yeah. So we need to increase our trade, our relationship with China. These are the same people who talk about how Donald Trump, my gosh, this guy's a tyrant. This is a whole new ballgame. We haven't seen anyone like him before. He's a danger. Well, I don't know if you know this. China doesn't have the best track record with human rights. You can check the references. We make them available every show. They have at least around 5.5 million people enslaved. They've forced the sterilization of.
Yeah, Brookfield is way up from the beginning of 24.
Uyghur women. They actually visit homes to make sure that women are.
So yeah, the Brookfield here. If you can see that is way up. From at least the beginning of 24, it went on quite the run. Carney got elected somewhere around here, I think. But obviously he's been an economic advisor. But yeah, I think Moose on the Loose talks about Brookfield quite a bit, right? The Canadian creator Moose on the Loose. When I check out that guy's videos, he's talking about that sometimes for sure. Which is good, I think. It's good that someone like a big creator is tracking that for sure.
Are pregnant, and even though they used to actually force people to end the lives of children because of overpopulation, they've actually unilaterally annexed portions of that region, and they, not to mention, released, covered up the global pandemic that wrecked the world economy. Some would say by design because they had a vested interest, and so
look, he's
to make sure that women.
Calling out China here, modern slavery in China. Wow.
Are pregnant, and even though they used to actually force people to end the lives of children because of overpopulation, they've actually unilaterally annexed portions of that region, and they, not to mention, released, covered up the global pandemic that wrecked the world economy. Some would say by design because they had a vested interest, and so we really don't want people who claim to be our friends enriching them. Let's contrast that, the world on China, while they virtue signal. Let's compare that versus the United States right now. You do have to pick a worldview. Is China a good actor, or do they maybe not have your best interests at heart?
Why would Europe agree to be net zero in 2030 when they...
If you're watching, please hit the subscribe button. I'm trying to get to 1,000 so I can monetize this.
don't make a battery.
I'm doing this for free, for the love of the game.
They don't make a battery. So if they go 2030, they are deciding to be subservient to China, who makes the batteries. Why would you do that? Why would the United States of America, which has oil and natural gas, try to convert to all electricity?
China is a very large buyer of Russian oil, as they are of Iranian oil, as they were of Venezuelan oil. But guess what, Maria? No more Venezuelan oil for them.
That's where a little bit of the gayness pops out.
Yeah.
Guess what? That's not going to happen. By the way, your shoes are cute.
And he lets it slip.
Thanks for the jazz hands.
Yeah.
That's a foundational difference in worldview. Anyone saying, "Oh, I can't believe we're going to be taken more
One last
seriously," on the
little bit of Carney here.
when he's in the face of Trump. Here's Carney without Trump.
But when we only negotiate bilaterally with a hegemon, we negotiate from weakness.
Correct.
We accept what's offered. We compete with each other to be the most accommodating.
Yeah.
This is not sovereignty. It's the performance of sovereignty while accepting subordination. Great powers have begun using economic integration as weapons. Tariffs as leverage.
Yes, China has.
Financial infrastructure as coercion. Supply chains as vulnerabilities to be exploited. You cannot live within the lie of mutual benefit through integration when integration becomes the source of your subordination.
Isn't Canada almost uniquely vulnerable to pressure because of the extent of your trade dependence on the United States?
Well, the proof is that we have been able to withstand the pressure, and there has been considerable pressure. I'll give you a couple of facts. We've actually created more jobs since the tariffs were put on than the United States in absolute number. Economy is growing at the second fastest rate within the G7.
Yeah. Whoops. A couple of things there to note. They are growing the second fastest at about half the rate the United States, according to the 2025 numbers. Us at about 2.02%, them at about 1.15%. He just lied about unemployment. It's at 6.8, the highest it's been in Canada since 2022. Also, when he talks about tariffs,
There's no way that's true. On an absolute number, that can't be true.
being used as weapons. Well, I mean, enough about Canada. Canada was doing that. They freaked when the United States said, we're going to apply them in response. And by the way, if you simply play ball fairly, then we're going to alleviate them. Everyone does it. It's only a problem when the United States does it. These people want to have their cake and eat it too, which, by the way, is an expression that makes no sense. Why would you have cake and not eat it? I never understood it.
Me either. Yeah. Me, that drives me nuts. I'm out of here.
Yeah, I used it, but I am not happy about it.
No, you shouldn't feel.
Well, this would be like a real. I mean, this would be a real war. I don't want to think about that. That would be like, that'd just be absolute pandemonium globally. Yeah.
I don't.
So that's Carney when Trump is not there. Compare that, right? Take that versus, let's compare it to Carney when he is in the room with President Trump. And boy, just what the second this clip starts, you're going to go, what a snake.
Thank you for your hospitality and above all for your leadership. You're a transformational president.
This video by Crowder too. I'm pretty sure it would have been before Trump removed Carney from the Board of Peace. This might have even been before Trump's speech at Davos. I'm not sure, but it's definitely before Trump removed Carney from the Board of Peace or rescinded the invitation.
The economy with a relentless focus on the American worker, securing your borders, ending the scourge of fentanyl and other opioids, and securing the world. And I've been elected.
Yeah, Mr. Burns. I didn't even know what Mr. Burns was. People were saying it in the chat, and I was like, what the heck is that? But I get it. I knew the meme of his slouched over posture. It might have been from this meeting even that picture came out.
With my colleagues here.
Trump goes, you took notes of my last speech.
Spread the credit to transform Canada with a similar focus. And I'll say this as well.
Can you picture this happening in 2026? I can't. A meeting like this? I mean, maybe it would, but I think Trump would be pretty much roasting Carney right to his face the whole time.
That the president has revitalized international security, revitalized NATO, and us playing our full weight in NATO.
He's right.
You are a transformative president. And since then, the transformation in the economy, unprecedented commitments of NATO partners to defense spending, peace from India, Pakistan through to Azerbaijan, Armenia, disabling Iran as a force of terror. And now, and I'm running out of time, but this is many respects the most important. What you created
of Canada.
No, what you There are areas where we compete, and it's in those areas where we have to come to an agreement that works. But there are more areas where we are stronger together, and that's what we're focused on.
Man, that's really sad that Canada.
That's so funny. Cal, I'm going to end the stream though. Thank you everybody for watching and chatting. I'll be live probably tomorrow. If not, I'll make videos tomorrow. I'm sure I will, but three more years, no kidding. Bravo, Mr. Burns. Anyway, thank you, everybody. Have a great night. See you in the next stream. Like and subscribe. See you.